In our previous video, we talked about why choosing one path can feel like a betrayal, how, for highly sensitive minds, commitment doesn't feel like clarity. But now, let's explore another topic about why being average at many things is actually a hidden advantage. Some of you may say, I can focus, I can work hard, but the moment you commit to one path, it feels like you amputated yourself. And that question kept coming up. What if the problem isn't lack of discipline? What if the problem is that your mind simply doesn't move in straight lines? You look at your interests, and they don't feel random. They feel connected, even if you can't explain how yet. You're not afraid of learning deeply. You're afraid of being trapped inside a single box. And that brings us to one of the most misunderstood labels in modern psychology, jack of all trades. It's usually said as an insult, a warning, a diagnosis. Someone who knows a little about many things, but not enough about any one thing to matter. And if you've internalized that idea, it can quietly eat away at your confidence. You start believing that your curiosity is a defect, that your range is a liability, that depth only counts if it's narrow. Today, we're going to challenge that belief. Not with motivation, not with vague encouragement, but with psychology. Because it turns out the jack of all trades mind is not only real, it's adaptive. And in the kind of world we live in now, it may be one of the most valuable cognitive profiles there is. But to understand that, we need to talk about why this label exists in the first place. For most of modern history, success followed a very specific pattern. Learn one skill, repeat it, refine it, do it better than everyone else. This worked because the world itself was stable. Psychologists call this a kind environment. The rules don't change, feedback is clear, and yesterday's expertise still works tomorrow. This is the world of the specialist, the surgeon, the craftsman, the engineer working on a single system for decades. And in that world, depth beats breadth. But that world is shrinking. The environment we live in now is what psychologists call wicked. The rules shift. The feedback is delayed or misleading, and problems don't come labeled. Skills become obsolete, industries overlap, and solutions come from unexpected places. In a wicked environment, the person who only knows one way to see the world can miss what's right in front of them. This is where the jack of all trades mind quietly shines. Because your brain doesn't optimize for repetition, it optimizes for pattern recognition across domains. You don't just learn things, you compare them. You notice similarities, structures, echoes. And while that can look unfocused from the outside, internally, your mind is doing something very specific. It's building a cross-disciplinary map. This is why many multi-skilled people feel slow early on, but suddenly leap ahead later. Psychologists call this a lagging advantage. You spend years collecting pieces that don't seem to add up, until one day, they snap together. And suddenly, you're seeing solutions others can't see because they were never looking across fields. This is also why the old master of none insult misses something critical. Depth doesn't only come from staying in one place. It can also come from returning to depth repeatedly in different forms. Which brings us to a hidden distinction. There's a difference between surface hopping and integrated breadth. Surface hopping avoids difficulty. Integrated breadth moves through it, then carries the insight forward. This is where many people get stuck, because no one teaches you how to do breadth well. So let's talk about structure. Instead of asking, what's my one thing? A better question is, what's the shape of my mind? Specialists are often eye-shaped, one deep pillar. Generalists without structure become dash-shaped, wide but fragile. But the most effective multi-skilled thinkers develop structured depth. Think of it like this. You don't go shallow in everything at once. You go deep, one area at a time. Psychologists sometimes call this sequential specialization. You master one domain enough to internalize its logic, then you move on. Not because you failed, but because your mind has extracted what it needs. Each depth leaves behind a mental tool, a way of thinking, a lens. Over time, those lenses stack, and this leads to one of the most powerful cognitive abilities there is, far transfer. Most people use near transfer, applying a skill to a very similar problem. But multi-domain thinkers excel at far transfer, applying the structure of one field to a completely different one. This is why people with backgrounds in music excel in programming, why artists often become great strategists, why people who've studied philosophy can simplify complex systems. You're not jumping topics, you're translating them, and those translations are where innovation lives. But this kind of mind needs a different strategy to thrive. First, you need permission to stop apologizing. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not scattered. Your development curve is simply non-linear. Second, you need stability without suffocation. Many polymathic thinkers did their best work while holding ordinary jobs. Not because they lacked ambition, but because cognitive freedom requires energy. A job that drains all of your mental bandwidth leaves nothing for integration. Your work doesn't have to be your identity. It can be your foundation. Third, you need an external system. Because a mind that sees connections generates more ideas than it can store. Trying to hold everything internally creates overwhelm, not brilliance. Writing things down, linking them, letting interests fade without guilt. This is not procrastination, it's incubation. Ideas don't disappear, they wait. And when the moment is right, they return, connected. So let's bring this together. Being a jack of all trades is not a failure to specialize. It's a different cognitive strategy, designed for complexity, for uncertainty, for a world where answers don't live in one field anymore. You were never meant to be narrow. You were meant to connect. And when you stop fighting the shape of your mind, something shifts. The anxiety softens, the self-criticism quiets, and curiosity becomes grounded instead of chaotic. Depth will come, not by force, but by return. Pick one thing. Go deep for a season. Carry the insight forward. You don't have to choose forever, you just have to choose next, and that is more than enough. If this resonated, you're not alone. Subscribe to DeepMind. I'll see you in the next one.